Welcome to this week's Bible Topics discussion. We're happy you joined us today as we ask the question, why is the veil torn from top to bottom? First, let's have a little introduction to our topic.
What veil are we talking about? Well, to understand the veil, we have to do a brief review of a portion of the Old Testament that gives all sorts of directions for preparing the tabernacle. God gives the Israelites instructions on all the different items involved in the tabernacle, where they would worship Him and how to make them, including this veil, the big curtain which would separate the Holy of Holies from the holy place. The priest was the only one who could enter the Holy of Holies, and he could only go in once in a year.
Let's read Exodus chapter 26, verses 31 through 35. Which describes the veil. You shall make a veil of blue and purple and scarlet material, and fine twisted linen. It shall be made with cherubim, the work of a skillful workman. You shall hang it on 4 pillars of acacia overlaid with gold, their hooks also being of gold, on 4 sockets of silver. You shall hang up the veil under the clasp, and shall bring in the ark of the testimony there within the veil. And the veil shall serve for you as a partition between the holy place and the Holy of Holies. You shall put the mercy seat on the ark of the testimony in the Holy of Holies. You shall set the table outside the veil, and the lampstand opposite the table on the side of the tabernacle toward the south. And you shall put the table on the north side.
So you see by reading about the construction of the veil that it was large, heavy, and thick, with all that embroidered work in it. So remembering that it was so big and heavy, let's go to our topic today, why the veil was torn from top to bottom. Let's look at Matthew chapter 27, verses 50 through 54, which takes place just at the moment in Jesus' crucifixion that he cried out and gave up his spirit. And Jesus cried out again with a loud voice and yielded up his spirit. And behold, the veil of the temple was torn in two from top to bottom. And the earth shook and the rocks were split. The tombs were opened, and many bodies of the saints who had fallen asleep were raised. And coming out of the tombs after his resurrection, they entered the holy city and appeared to many. Now the centurion and those who were with him, keeping guard over Jesus, when they saw the earthquake and the things that were happening, became very frightened and said, "Truly, this was the Son of God."
It might have been possible for a strong man to tear the veil from bottom to top, although because of its construction, he would had to be a very strong man. But it was torn from top to bottom, the top being the thickest part. No one could tear a curtain that heavily constructed. It had to be the hand of God. And the reason it was torn was because it represented the need before the time of Jesus for there to be a mediator between God and man. And that mediator was the priest. He had to go inside the veil, the Holy of Holies, once a year on the Day of Atonement, what we know as Yom Kippur. Once Jesus was crucified, there was no need for a mediator. Jesus was the mediator. So the veil was torn to symbolize that fact. The veil was no longer needed, and the priest no longer needed to make his yearly visit inside.
That's right. Well, that's it for this week. Please like, comment, and share, and let us know if there are questions or suggestions for future videos. We'd love to hear from you. We hope you enjoyed this little explanation about the veil. Aren't we all glad that Jesus died and was raised to life again? for us.
Yes.
See
See you next week. Be blessed.